My name is Michael Bennett. I'm 39 years old, a structural engineer based in Boise, Idaho. I've never been flashy. I don't drink more than I should. I don't gamble. I've never cheated. I build things. Bridges, flood barriers, foundations. Quiet things that hold the weight of people's lives. That's how I live too. Steady, dependable, built to last. Or at least I thought I was. Rachel and I had been married for 13 years. We had 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, ages 2 to 10. A full house, noisy and alive. Every morning I packed lunches while she got them dressed. Every night we did dinner, baths, stories. We were a team. Or I thought we were. After our youngest, Ella, was born, Rachel started talking about being done. No more kids. Her body was tired, her hands were full, her mind needed rest. I agreed. I could see it in her face, how worn she looked some days. So I decided to give her something she didn't ask for, but that I thought she'd appreciate. A vasectomy. Quiet, private, final. I scheduled it on a Friday, healed up over the weekend, and planned to surprise her with it on her birthday. A kind of strange but meaningful gift. My way of saying, I'm with you. We're enough. The day came. I got off work early, picked up her favorite lemon cake from that little bakery she loved, and came home to set up a quiet dinner after the kids were asleep. She looked beautiful that night. Hair done, soft sweater, glass of wine in her hand. The candlelight made the years fall off her face. Just as I was about to tell her, pull out the card where I'd written what I'd done, she said she had something to share first. She smiled, touched her stomach, and said, I'm pregnant. I didn't hear her at first. Not really. My brain tried to fill in other meanings. Maybe she was joking. Maybe she was talking about someone else. But her eyes were wide with that fluttery joy I remembered from the other times, and her voice was soft and full of wonder. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. I smiled, reflexively, kissed her forehead, said all the right things, but I was somewhere else, doing the math. I'd had the vasectomy 6 weeks ago. Even accounting for timing, there was no way that that baby could be mine. That night I laid next to her in bed, her hand resting on her stomach, already protective. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the baby monitor and the wind outside our window. My throat felt tight. My heart wasn't racing. It was slowing, like something inside me was shutting down piece by piece. I didn't ask questions. Didn't accuse. That's not who I am. That's not how I was raised. My father always said a man doesn't need to shout when he's in the right. He just needs to be steady. So, I got steady. Over the next few days, I went on like everything was normal. Made breakfast, took the boys to practice, kissed Rachel goodbye before she went to work. But every move I made was deliberate. I took notes, dates, schedules. I started watching patterns. And deep down, I made a silent promise. I would not lose my family because of someone else's lies. I wouldn't explode. I wouldn't threaten. I would move with purpose. One quiet step at a time. Because the truth was coming, and so was the reckoning. I didn't sleep much after that night. Rachel slept peacefully beside me, her body curling in toward the warmth of what she believed was a new chapter in our life. And me? I was watching shadows on the ceiling, tracing the curve of betrayal like blueprints in my mind. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was calculating. Because if there's one thing I know, it's how to find cracks in a structure before it collapses. The next morning, I kissed her on the forehead and took the kids to school like always. I even made her coffee just the way she likes it. 2 sugars, splash of cream, cinnamon on top. She smiled at me with that soft contentment I'd missed for months. "You've been so good to me lately," she said. I nodded. Trying to be? It was the truth, just not in the way she thought. I started making small moves. First, I pulled our recent bank statements. We had joint accounts, but I kept a habit of downloading PDFs each month. Old engineer habits die hard. I noticed a few new names. Charges to restaurants we never went to. Venmo transfers to someone named LD with random emojis. Nothing big enough to scream, but enough to whisper. I didn't confront her. I didn't change passwords or cancel cards. That's how amateurs play. Instead, I opened a new account at a separate credit union, one she didn't know about. I diverted part of my next paycheck there, just a fraction, enough to build a foundation in case the whole house came down. Next, I installed a new camera in the garage, small, discreet, linked to a cloud account she didn't know existed. I told her I wanted to keep an eye on the kids' bikes, since someone down the block had theirs stolen. She shrugged, didn't question it. Then I made a backup of our home computer, pulling everything onto an external drive I kept locked in my toolbox at work. Emails, photos, files, just in case. I checked the dates on my vasectomy paperwork, procedure date, confirmation of sterility, everything. Then I slipped those copies into my safe at the office, too. Insurance, medical, digital logs from the clinic, all in order. I wasn't about to walk into any situation without proof. I started showing up at Rachel's workplace unexpectedly, bringing her lunch, checking in. She always smiled, hugged me, introduced me to coworkers. It all looked normal. Too normal. Like a stage play performed just for me. One guy stood out. Tall, mid-40s, overconfident handshake. Travis. Worked in talent acquisition, whatever that meant. When I shook his hand, something in his smile didn't match his eyes. He looked at Rachel like she was more than a colleague. I made a mental note and moved on. That weekend, I volunteered to take the kids to my brother's ranch 2 hours north. Rachel said she had a spa day planned with her sister. I kissed her goodbye and told her to relax. She told me she loved me. I told her I loved her too. Then I looped back. Once the kids were with my brother, I drove back into town and parked 2 blocks from the spa she claimed to be visiting. I waited, watched. When an hour passed and she still hadn't shown up, I checked the app I'd quietly installed on her old iPad, still linked to her Apple ID. Her location showed a hotel near downtown, not the spa. That was my first confirmation. Back at home, I sat in the dark, kitchen quiet, phone face down on the table. I felt the weight of it all pressing down on me. The years, the kids, the house, the life we built, and this secret sitting in the middle of it, growing like a crack through the foundation. But I wasn't going to lose everything. I wasn't going to react. I was going to respond. Smartly. Quietly. And when the moment came, I'd make sure Rachel understood something she never expected. I don't start fights, but I finish them. The more I paid attention, the more things began to unravel. I didn't need to hack into anything or install spyware. I just watched, listened, and logged. The signs were all there, once I knew what I was looking for. Rachel's routines had changed, subtly. She'd started using the guest bathroom more often than the master one. She changed her phone password for the first time in 5 years. She suddenly cared about her gym schedule again, but I never saw any of the usual soreness or post-workout exhaustion afterward. It wasn't sweat she was chasing. I checked her calendar. There were spa appointments, yoga sessions, lunch dates, but the hotel app on her phone showed check-ins during those exact times. I quietly collected screenshots every time the locations didn't match. Each one was a thread in a web she didn't know I was spinning. Travis came up again. I remembered his face from the office, the cocky grin, the half-second too long he looked at her. When I checked his social media, I found tagged photos from happy hour, hiking trips, even a company retreat Rachel never mentioned. She was in several of them. Not close, not overtly affectionate, but always next to him. One night while she was in the shower, I took a photo of the lock screen on her phone. It displayed a message preview. Hotels booked for Tuesday. No name, no number, just a ghost in her pocket. Later that week, she claimed she had a work dinner, said it would go late. I told her to have fun, gave her a kiss at the door, even packed her a protein bar for the ride. Then I called a friend. Jordan is a former coworker, now a private investigator. We've kept in touch over the years. I didn't give him all the details, just said I needed photos and a timestamp. He didn't ask questions. The next day, I got a file with 15 pictures. Rachel, Travis, a downtown boutique hotel, kissing in the parking lot, laughing in the lobby, her hand on his chest like she used to touch mine. I stared at the photos for a long time, not out of rage, just confirmation. There's something cruel about watching someone live a double life right next to you, like discovering your house has termites after you've repainted the walls. The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was what I found next. While combing through our joint bank account again, I noticed 3 wire transfers over the past month, each just under $5,000, sent to an account with initials that didn't match anyone I knew. When I traced the routing number, it led to a regional bank in Oregon. Not local, not familiar, not something she'd accidentally use. I dug further and found emails in our family laptop's cache, drafts she hadn't deleted properly. She'd been in contact with a real estate agent out of state, asking about school districts, pre-approvals, asking how fast a house could close after a divorce was finalized. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to leave, to disappear. She thought the baby would be her ticket, emotional leverage, a sympathy card. She thought she could walk away with the house, the kids, the narrative. Poor Rachel. Her husband wasn't attentive. She fell for someone who saw her. But she didn't know that I had every piece of the puzzle now, that I had been building my case silently, brick by brick, that I had her location history, the text previews, the financial records, the photos. She didn't know the man she married, the quiet one, the steady one, was never asleep at the wheel. And now that I saw the full picture, I knew exactly what I had to do. I was done waiting. The counterattack was coming. I wasn't going to confront her in the kitchen with printed emails or storm into a hotel lobby yelling names. That would only give her control of the story. Rachel was already positioning herself as the victim-to-be, the betrayed woman, the emotionally neglected wife. No, I needed her own lies to bury her. I began with legal ground, quietly. I called Samantha Kelly, a family attorney I'd worked with years ago when drafting a will. She remembered me, said I sounded measured, which is rare in these calls. I told her I wasn't planning to explode, I just wanted to be prepared. She advised me to gather everything: texts, emails, financial records, location logs. Proof of infidelity mattered more than people thought, especially when children and property were involved, especially in Idaho. The courts still paid attention to moral grounds when it came to custody and division of assets. She asked if I wanted full custody. I said yes. She asked if I wanted to keep the house. I said absolutely.
Then she asked if Rachel knew I had already had a vasectomy. No, that was the ace up my sleeve. That was what made her plan unravel from the inside. Because Rachel wasn't just unfaithful, she was planning to deceive the court into believing the child was mine, knowing it wasn't, so she could secure more leverage in divorce proceedings. That alone would change the entire tone of a trial. I started organizing a digital folder with labeled evidence: infidelity, photos, financial manipulation, pregnancy timeline versus vasectomy documentation, custody notes. Every file dated, backed up, synced to 3 encrypted drives and a cloud server with restricted access. Then I called Jordan, the private investigator, and asked for 2 things: background on Travis and discrete surveillance footage to verify their next hotel meetup. I wanted time-stamped images and vehicle plate photos. I didn't need more photos for court. I needed leverage, proof to make Travis disappear when the time came. Jordan delivered, as always. Travis had a wife. That changed everything. I drafted an anonymous email, short and direct, with 3 attachments: one of Rachel and Travis entering the hotel, one of them in the parking lot, one of the hotel reservation in Travis's name. I didn't send it yet. That wasn't for now. That was insurance. Next came the kids. I started scheduling more time with them individually. Weekend hikes, school pickups. I made notes on who they felt closer to, what routines they relied on me for. I began documenting their daily care: meals, medications, emotional support. Samantha said a custody evaluator would want to know who the primary parent was, even if it wasn't official on paper. Then I made the final move. I met with our mortgage broker and asked for a current appraisal and title check. Turns out the house was bought entirely in my name. Rachel was added later on a courtesy clause for refinance purposes, but her legal claim was thin, especially with evidence of fraud and intent to deceive. She didn't know that, but she would soon. The night before her next scheduled spa day, I kissed her goodbye, like always, told her to enjoy herself. She smiled, said she'd call me later. I nodded, tucked the kids into bed, and then went to my office. I opened the final file I'd been compiling, Statement of Intent, and began writing what I planned to say in court, if it came to that. I wanted it to be calm, logical, unshakable. By the time the sun came up, I was ready. She thought she was building her escape route, but I had just finished drawing the map to her downfall.
The morning she left for her so-called spa day, she kissed me at the door like nothing was wrong. She had a small overnight bag, her hair freshly done, nails perfect. She smiled and said, "Don't let the kids stay up too late." I nodded, said, "Of course." I stood on the porch and waved until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I turned to face the real work. I called Jordan. "She just left," I said. "I'm already tracking her," he replied. "Same hotel as last time. Rooms booked under Travis's corporate account. Let me know when they check in." Copy that. While they played house in a downtown hotel room, I spent the day moving pieces into place. First, I met with my attorney. We filed for divorce under grounds of adultery, submitting all supporting documentation, photos, financial transfers, pregnancy timing against vasectomy proof, and a request for an emergency hearing regarding property and custody protection. Next, I visited our bank. With Samantha's guidance and a notarized affidavit, I froze our joint savings and moved my direct deposits into the new account. I wasn't about to let Rachel empty it behind my back. I also set up alerts on all accounts. Every time she touched something, I'd know. By 3 p.m., I got a text from Jordan. Both checked in. She's wearing the same jacket from last time. Got photos. I replied, "Hold them for now. We're almost there." That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with our kids eating mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. They laughed at silly jokes and argued over who got the last juice box. It hit me then. This was my life. Not the betrayal, not the lies. These little humans were the reason I was doing all of this so carefully. They didn't deserve chaos. They deserved a home that didn't feel like a lie. Around 8 p.m., I received a ping on my laptop. Rachel had just used our credit card at the hotel bar. Still completely unaware that I already knew everything. Still playing the loving wife, the tired mother who just needed a break. At 9:30, while she sipped wine and smiled at a man who wasn't me, I submitted the formal custody petition. The evidence package was airtight. The request included supervised visitation for Rachel on grounds of deceit, disruption of family stability, and planned exit with a child that wasn't biologically mine. The next morning, I received a confirmation from the county clerk's office. Our petition was accepted, and the preliminary hearing was scheduled. The process was in motion. At 11 a.m., I received a phone call. Rachel. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through a few minutes later, light and cheerful. Hey babe, the spa was amazing. I'll be home soon. Maybe we can watch a movie tonight? Love you. I stared at the screen. That voice once made me feel safe. Now it sounded like the ticking of a clock winding down. She got home just after noon, kissed me on the cheek like always, told me she picked up some new skincare products, asked how the kids were. I smiled. I said, they missed you. We all did. She didn't notice the manila envelope on my desk. She didn't see the calm behind my eyes. But she would. Soon. Because by the time the weekend ended, Rachel would be served. And her carefully scripted story, it was about to be rewritten with facts by the man she thought she could fool.
The papers were served on a Monday morning. Rachel was making breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, cutting strawberries for the kids like nothing was wrong. When the doorbell rang, she smiled and said, "Can you get that, hun?" I did. A local process server stood there, polite but direct. I nodded, took the envelope, then turned and handed it to Rachel. She looked confused at first, then concerned, then pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the envelope. I watched her eyes move across the pages. Divorce petition, custody request, evidence list. She didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, "Michael, what is this?" "I think you know exactly what it is." She swallowed hard, backing away like she'd touched something hot. You're making a mistake. We can talk about this." "No," I said quietly. "You made the mistake. I'm just responding to it." The kids came in, still in their pajamas, asking about breakfast. She snapped back into her mom mode, smiling through what must have felt like shattering glass. "Go eat, sweethearts. Mommy will be right there." We didn't fight. That wasn't my goal. I didn't want yelling. I wanted clarity. And clarity was exactly what the documents provided. The proof was there. Photos of her and Travis, time-stamped hotel check-ins, bank transfers to an account in Oregon. The pregnancy that biologically couldn't be mine. Every lie in black and white. 2 hours later, Rachel locked herself in our bedroom. I didn't follow. I took the kids to school, stopped for coffee, and sat in my truck for a while, staring out at the quiet streets of our neighborhood. I felt strange, not triumphant, not angry, just emptied out, like I'd finished a marathon and my legs still thought they were running. When I got home, Rachel was waiting at the kitchen table. Her face was tight, eyes red. "Why didn't you talk to me?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean before or after you got pregnant with another man's child?" She winced. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely, you were always working, we were drowning in kids. And your solution was to lie, cheat, and plan to leave with a child that isn't mine, while still letting me think I was part of that plan." She said nothing, just stared at her hands. "I had a vasectomy 6 weeks before you told me I was pregnant. It was going to be your birthday gift." Her mouth dropped open slightly. Then, without thinking, she said, "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was going to, but you told me something first." Silence. She stood up, paced, then turned on me with sudden heat. "You've been spying on me? Watching me?" "I was paying attention, which is more than you were doing." She looked at me, not as a husband, but as an adversary. She understood now, this wasn't just a man catching his wife cheating. This was someone who'd been 3 steps ahead for weeks, maybe longer. That night, Travis's wife received the anonymous email. I didn't send it directly, but it went out exactly as planned, via a secure, untraceable channel Jordan had set up. Let them deal with the fallout on their own. By the end of the week, Rachel had moved into a short-term rental apartment. She tried calling, texting, saying we needed to be adults, to keep things amicable. I ignored every one. The woman who thought she'd written the script was now living in a scene she couldn't control. And I was the one behind the camera.
Word spreads fast in a town like Boise, even when you don't say a word. I didn't post on Facebook, I didn't talk to the neighbors, I just let the truth leak through the cracks Rachel left behind. Travis's wife filed for divorce within a week. She attached the same photos Jordan had taken, submitted them to her lawyer, and requested a formal paternity test for their youngest child, just to be safe. Turns out, Rachel wasn't the only one rewriting a family behind someone's back. Rachel tried to stay ahead of the rumors. She told friends we'd grown apart, that things had been strained for years. She painted herself as a woman who had made a mistake, but who still deserved grace. But people weren't buying it, especially after the story got around about the baby. Someone from her HR department at work asked around, quietly of course, about the timing of her pregnancy versus my vasectomy. Boise's a big town, but not big enough. Her coworkers began to distance themselves. Whispers replaced smiles. Suddenly, Rachel wasn't the model professional anymore. She was the woman who lied to her husband and carried another man's child without blinking. Then came the hearing. Samantha walked me through it, calm, confident, controlled. We didn't go in for blood. We went in for truth. I had everything. The vasectomy records, the digital timestamps, the text message screenshots, the hotel logs, the wire transfers, and yes, even a signed, notarized letter from Jordan outlining his findings. We submitted it all. Rachel's attorney tried to frame it as emotional retaliation, said I was overreacting to a marital misstep. But the judge wasn't buying it. The court granted me primary custody of our children. Rachel would have visitation, but only on weekends, and only after the baby was born and a formal DNA test was completed. She'd have no claim to the house, no access to the joint savings account. She walked out of that courtroom pale and hollow. What hit her hardest wasn't the legal loss, it was the social one. Her church group stopped inviting her to events. The school's PTA quietly replaced her on 2 committees. The moms she used to have wine nights with no longer replied to her messages. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about reality setting in. The man she betrayed wasn't a fool. He was a father, a planner, a builder. And builders don't crumble, they reinforce. She had thought of me as dull, predictable, easy to manipulate. But what she'd never understood was that predictability isn't weakness, it's discipline.
And in the long game, discipline wins. I didn't gloat. I didn't dance on the wreckage. I picked up the kids from school, made their lunches, folded laundry, and went back to work like always. But I slept well. And when Travis showed up outside my office building one afternoon, pacing nervously, I didn't say a word. He didn't approach me, just stood across the street, watching. I could see the guilt in his eyes, the recognition that he'd helped destroy more than just a marriage. A week later, I got a letter from the hospital where Rachel gave birth. She listed me as the father on the birth certificate. I submitted a formal objection citing medical impossibility and provided the court-ordered DNA test. The child wasn't mine. The court amended the birth record. Rachel was fined for perjury. Justice. Not loud, not violent, just cold, clear, and permanent.
A year has passed since the morning Rachel handed me the news that changed everything. The morning she smiled and said she was pregnant, unaware she was planting the first seed of her own undoing. People ask me now how I managed to stay calm, how I didn't blow up or storm out or fall apart. I tell them the same thing every time. I've built bridges in flood zones and towers meant to hold their ground during windstorms. You don't panic when you see a crack. You reinforce, you assess, and when necessary, you rebuild. After the divorce was finalized and the paternity issue was resolved, I made a decision. I sold the house, not because I had to, but because I couldn't breathe in it anymore. Every corner reminded me of a lie. The hallway where I used to carry sleepy toddlers to bed now echoed with silence. The kitchen island where we'd laugh and plan dinners now felt like a stage set for betrayal. So I bought a place further out, closer to the foothills. Still in Boise, but quieter. Fewer eyes. Fewer whispers. It's not big, just enough for me and the kids. Big backyard, a fire pit, and a detached garage I've been slowly turning into a wood shop. Something with my hands. Something real. The kids are adjusting. It's not easy splitting their lives between two homes, but they're resilient. Kids always are when they have at least one anchor, and I've made sure I'm that anchor. Every school pickup, every scraped knee, every bedtime story. They know I'm there, unmoving. Rachel still tries to reach out now and then. Holidays, birthdays. A text every few weeks that reads more like guilt than conversation. I don't reply. Not because I'm bitter, but because silence is the cleanest boundary. Travis? Last I heard, he left town. His ex-wife took the kids and moved to Spokane. I have no interest in where he ended up. He was a symptom, not the disease. The baby? Born healthy. A girl. Rachel named her Grace. Fitting, in some strange, twisted way. I haven't seen her. Don't plan to. She's not mine, in blood or in any way that counts, and I've made my peace with that. Sometimes at night when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, I sit on the back porch and think about how close I came to losing everything. Not just my marriage, but my sense of self, my dignity, my belief in stability. But what Rachel tried to do didn't break me. It clarified me. She taught me something she probably never intended, that love without truth is just manipulation, that loyalty given blindly is wasted, and that quiet men are not weak. They're patient, and patience, when tested, can become a blade sharper than anything forged in rage. A few months ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note, in handwriting I didn't recognize. You don't know me, but you inspired me. I read what happened. I'm in a similar situation. Your story gave me the courage to leave before it got worse. Thank you. No signature. I folded it once, set it in the drawer beside my passport and the kids' birth certificates. Somewhere safe. Because I've learned that not all victories are loud. Some happen quietly, in courtrooms, in custody agreements, in the stillness of a man who chose to fight smart instead of loud. My name is Michael Bennett, And I didn't get revenge by destroying someone else. I got it by refusing to let them destroy me.